Welcome to Dirt, Sweat, and Gears. We are here in the black box of broken cars with the Miata that I just refused to give up on. The good news is that everything that I've worked on so far is doing really well. This car starts and runs great. It sounds it sounds terrible, but from what I understand, it just takes a little bit of time for the lifters to fill up with oil. And actually, the sound is starting to go away. The bad news is that there's a lot of things that I have not yet touched. And if there's anything we've learned so far, is that if I haven't touched it, it's broken. First up on the agenda today is the unfinished business from last week. I have to change the oil in the transmission and in the rear end. I'm also going to put together the front end so that this car looks better. I'm installing some of the missing plastics that go behind the bumper so that hopefully it won't flap around a little bit. I am still missing the little rods that go on either side of the bumper. I'm going to try to pick those up as quick as I can. If not, it'll just wait until another week. I don't expect them to cost very much. I know it'll be easy is the word of death, so I'm just going to say that I'm going to give it a try. I know on this front end, since it's been bent up a little bit, I'm going to have to do some massaging to get everything to line up correctly. I'm also obviously missing a lot of hardware if I was also missing the plastics. So I'm going to be trying to replace those, and hopefully I get it all together. If not, well, it's just going to have to wait a little bit longer. So let's just get right to it. All right, 23 millimeter, 24 millimeter. It's really all you need to know. Obviously take this one off first. It's what everyone says. And also because you don't want to get stuck. It's kind of embarrassing to have a tow truck drag your ass out to a mechanic because you took this one out before rounding off this other one. So yeah, just take the top one off first and deal with it later. Again, sure, I'm glad I took the top one off first because that got a little scary for a second. Now let's take this thing out. I try not to get my hands all disgusting. Yeah, right. Almost there. Gee. Sure, I'm glad I did this. Yeah. So I know I'm not a professional mechanic or anything, but I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say there's supposed to be a little bit more fluid than that. Yeah. And I'm also pretty sure that differential oil is not supposed to smell like mezcal. Very smoky. It definitely smells like mezcal. It's pretty safe to say that even if you disagree with my choice in differential oil, this is going to be an improvement over what just came out of there, which was almost nothing. All right, so that's done, but look at what I noticed over here. I think this axle's gonna have to go. Yikes. You know what's crazy? That there's not even any grease left over from the CV going out, which kind of tells me that it's been like this for a while. This how is it so clean? I don't know. What? What? I think the transmission was overfilled. Good Lord. I mean, maybe I could jack up the front of the car just a tad, but this much should not be coming out of the fill hole. That's it's messed up. And what is this glue? Like, Jesus Christ. I guess that's gear oil. Yeah, it doesn't seem that bad. But, wow. And also, you may notice transmission missing a few bolts. It's also missing at least one up top. I have a feeling this transmission is held onto the bell housing by 3 bolts. So, yeah, this is great. I'm going to have to spend a lot of time down here. I'm not even sure I want to put unicorn tears in this transmission. Like, seriously, if I have to pull this thing, if the rear main seal is leaking and I have to pull this thing, Lord help me. Every time I do something to this car, I realize that if I didn't do it, then it's probably broken. Clutch slave cylinder. Clutch line. I don't know what the hell is going on here. I believe this bracket is supposed to bolt up against the transmission there. Why was it skipped? I have no clue. Why is it like that? The rubber line was pulled tight. So I have a feeling this clutch won't last very long. I'm not going to do it right now because I have a feeling I'm going to have to take this transmission out and do the clutch. So I'm just going to kind of wait on that as long as I can. This really concerns me. I have a feeling this slave cylinder is going to go before the clutch, though. So it's definitely on the list. It's something I'm going to price out and research, but I think I'm going to get this car smogged without doing it. Let's see how much gear oil was in the transmission. This was mostly empty. There was just a little bit of... There was a very little amount of gear oil in the actual gearbox, so this is the vast majority of it from the transmission. Let's say that's about 3 quarts. Let's see. Measurement, it's right here. Okay, so it is, oh God, 3.5 quarts. There was 3.5 quarts of gear oil in the transmission. So I'm trying to put some of the bumper plastics back on underneath, and I'm learning that these panel clips don't do anything. They just don't expand enough, and they just pop right out. You can see it's already happening on this one. So I got to replace those with nuts and bolts and washers. Not that big of a deal because I can fit my hand on the other side. It's just fine. The bumper itself, surprisingly, is only missing one of these little bracket things. So I can actually get it pretty well connected. And this actually isn't nearly as bad as I thought it was going to be. These plastics don't line up quite right. They're kind of close, but it's because this bracket needs to come down a little and go forward a little bit. That will bring this out to where it needs to be. I did do a little bit of bending before I put everything on, but obviously you don't know until you get there. So I have to do a little bit more massaging here to get that to line up. The other bolt holes do line up, surprisingly. And I'll be able to get this brand new plastic splash guard from Treasure Coast onto this car. I got the splash guard and the fender liners in. The fender liners, I don't know. I think there's still some more work to be done. For some reason, there was a bolt here that sort of threads, but not really, not completely. There's also a panel clip here that goes in, but you could see it's a little bit, leaves something to be desired. And I got nothing in here because, yeah, it just looks like there needs to be a mud flap, or I'm definitely missing something back here. Because this fender is just going to scoop in everything that gets kicked up by the wheel, and it's going to store it right down here. So there must be a mud flap or something that I need to get for this car. I'll keep a lookout for that. The splash guard went on. You see here I am missing one bolt up there, but that's because it was really, the plastic was getting really hard to pull. So I just said hell with it. It's on there really solid because there's the bolt up the front and there's a bolt in the back, and it's bolted up against the bumper. It's really, really on there. It's good. I'm happy with it.
So I am gonna put the wheels on and see if my ghetto eyeball toe alignment has the wheels, acceptably straight.
I got the body panels back on. As you can tell, I still got to do some work on the fitment. There's a huge gap here, and the previous owner had, because it had been whacked in the front, he had put washers underneath the fender to lift it up a little bit. I may do the same thing, but the front end just looks so much better when it's not flopping around. See, it's solid. I got a couple of bolts that, they're kind of shiny, but whatever. I'm not worried about it yet. I just want all the pieces to be there so that the car is more or less correct. I really don't care about how it looks right now, but when I get to that point, I will care, and I will make this car look really good. Still doesn't sound very good, but I read that it takes a long time to fill up those lifters with oil. So I'm just gonna wait and see. The next thing on the list is going to be smog. So I have to go to AAA, get a 1-day operating permit so I can legally drive it. Drive it around on the freeway for about 20 minutes. I mean, this thing handles so poorly that I'm going to be really careful. And then try to get it smogged. I know exactly where to go to smog it. It's a shop I've been going to for a long time. You know what's next, right? We got to drive it. So I got to be extra careful because the seatbelt anchor isn't even bolted back in yet. But we're not going very far. We're just going to go a few feet down the block, turn right around, and come back. I just want to know that this thing can go and stop. I also want to row at least one gear to know if these the unicorn tiers I put in the transmission makes any difference. The steering sure is making a lot of noise. I might need to top off the rack. It made a sound that I didn't like. This is a good place to turn around anyway. I can feel the steering rack is... Oh, but the motor feels so much better than I remember. Oh, it feels so much better. Yeah, this is definitely a better car. It still sounds like a fucking diesel. It still sounds like a diesel, but this is a much better car than it was when I started. I can hear it already. I can feel the difference just in that little bit that we drove. I still got some issues with the steering. I have to probably do a little bit more bleeding of the system. Just open the cap, turn the wheel back and forth 100 times with the car running. I'm definitely going to do that. And then, check the fluid level and all that stuff. But this was much better. The suspension is, obviously I didn't do anything with suspension, so the car is still way unsafe to drive. The toe is all out of whack, so it doesn't really drive straight, but This is very encouraging. I made a lot of progress on this car, and I'm really happy with how far it's come. You've got to be kidding me. Oh.